when I worked in the government and special operations and intel and all the other things, one of the things that you see utilized very effectively and more dangerously than bombs, bullets, and weapons is propaganda, psychological warfare, right? Psychological warfare works because, take it back again, human nature. Human nature does not change. As a majority, people will all react the same. We're sheep. We are sheep. There are very few of us, and this, I'm not saying this in an insulting way, there's very few people that have the level of intellect to not be included in the sheep class, right? And that's why we have politicians and business leaders and all kinds of people just steering all the sheep around. I'm not being an asshole here. It's just reality. This is the way it's always been. And the sheep, the majority, are very easily manipulated, right? And the things that are the easiest to manipulate in people are sex and fear, right? Fear will make the sheep do anything, right? That's why sheep have a shepherd. The shepherd keeps the flock safe, and it tells them where to go, takes them to the greener pastures, keeps them away from the wolves, right? Without a shepherd, all the sheep will die. All right. Well, now who's the shepherd, right? Who's steering the sheep? So what I saw with psychological warfare, especially, some people call it propaganda. People don't understand that almost every facet of your life, you are being manipulated. That's what people don't get. The government does it. Corporations do it. Salesmen do it. Husbands and wives do it to each other. At every facet of your life, you're being manipulated in some kind of way, whether lovingly or maliciously or everything in between, right? So what I've seen is I've seen simple propaganda make a nation burn itself alive, drag the dictator out of the house and murder him in the streets, right? We've watched the Arab Spring. That all happened from a few lies and some propaganda. And next thing you know, the Middle East is on fire, right? And it only happened in dictatorships, right? So the thing that people need to realize is we are being controlled. Now, I want you to think about this. When we grew up, we had more of a classical education, right? And we didn't have the internet. We couldn't Google the answer to everything. We actually had to show the work in math problems, right? We had to logically work the problem out, and we got just as much credit for the work as the answer, right? Because we had to show that we knew how to get to that answer. We had to use our brain, right? There was a scientific method, right? Science, the whole point of science was to challenge and continually challenge what we know. A hypothesis didn't become a scientific fact, until it had been challenged and challenged and challenged, and it could always be disproven. And we were taught this scientific method so that we wouldn't be like the sheep that are here today, right? We had to debate. We had to use logic to form our opinions. If we wanted the answer to something, we had to go pull out a fucking catalog card and go find the book and read it, or the encyclopedia and find the answer. We had to study to get to the right answer, right? We had to do the research. We were conditioned to use our brains, to think logically, to agree to disagree, to have healthy debate, to be able to solve problems. We were the last generation that got that. Now, this is the danger, and you see where I'm going with this.
Oh, yeah.
Think about how many people in our generation, right? COVID, for instance, who grew up with that same classical education where they were taught to use their brain, turned that fucker off the second COVID hit and the propaganda started.
Sure.
And didn't even use it. Now, here's where it gets really dangerous. And I'm not going to say the person's name, but a very wealthy, powerful, talented person, a buddy of mine, has ran the data on this. And we have lost our children. His data shows not that, there's a chance they're fucking lost. They're gone. Now, I'm not talking about all of them. I'm talking about the majority. The majority rules the country. They're lost. Here's why they're lost. Our children don't show the work. They don't agree to disagree. They Google every answer. Everything they Google is not accurate or true. They don't have to think logically. There is no room for debate. They do what they're told. It puts the lotions on its skin or it gets the hose again. This is the world that our children are growing up in. 14% of 15-year-olds, national standardized testing, could discern fact from fiction.
Wow.
14%. So 14% of 15-year-olds can discern fact from fiction. This was last year. And we keep raising more and more idiots on technology, mindless drones on iPhones, eating the propaganda, getting brainwashed and conditioned to whatever the masters and powers that be decide to do to them. And 14% of 15-year-olds now can't discern fact from fiction. Think about how many adults now can. And these idiots are voting, making decisions. They're the ones protesting, supporting Hamas, and terrorism, and just eating up the clips and the sound bites on the media because they know, and this is how psychological warfare and propaganda works, they don't give a fuck about me or you. We're disposable, led. We're loudmouths right now. We're saying what we believe. We're trying to wake people up. We're trying to get people to listen. But at the end of the day, the machine will run us the fuck over, right? Because they have the majority of Indians. They have the sheep. And the sheep are going to march, and they're going to herd, and they're going to do what they're told, and they're never going to ask questions, and they're never going to think straight. And what is an education now is brainwashing and indoctrination.
Yeah.
No one is educated anymore. You go to school to become a worker, to become a product, to become a minion in the army. You don't go to school to become an entrepreneur. You don't go to school to become a free thinker. You don't go to school to challenge ideas and constructs and thoughts. You go to school to do what the fuck you're told. And all these kids that are going to Harvard and Yale and all these things, there's people that are starting to wake up and speak up against it, but it doesn't matter because the majority is already brainwashed. The majority is already indoctrinated, and the majority will flip this country. Yeah. And that's what I fear the most, right? Is the writing is on the wall. If you have generations that the data can now analyze and show that are lost, that are so brainwashed they're gone, it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
Once you raise a kid, majority of kids in this problem, majority of them never wake up from it. Majority of them are just lost idiots. Well, these lost idiots are able to vote or soon to be able to vote, in the next couple elections. And people are like, oh, we'll never lose America. America will stay in this path. Well, look at our kids, And just as much as this has been done to us, the other part of the problem is we've been so brainwashed and distracted. We've allowed it collectively as adults to happen, if not participated. So, I am not a negative person. I am not a pessimistic person, but I am a pretty realist person. The data, the numbers, we're fucked.